What's up, beautiful people? I just wanted to, as I'm reading the book of Anastasia and the Ringing Cedars, the first book in particular, I wanted to record my first impression of the book as I again read this for the first time. And I've heard a lot of concepts from people around me about Anastasia. In fact, I've gotten close to Anastasia uh, fans in Korea because a lot of the things I say align with Anastasia, the things I've learned about alkaline diets, the things I've learned about, living more closer to nature, the different communing with plants and such. So yeah, I just thought I would kind of go through some things that I noticed and comment on them. So this is chapter 1 through 7 so far of the book. Um, yeah, how about we start with chapter 7 and work backwards? I've noticed um, that Anastasia comments on uh, the importance of pureness. And, it's funny, in our vernacular, we have this thing called, this phrase called thinking clear. And in my previous videos, I've gone through this numerous times, but to me, this is immaculate conception. This is, when there's innocence, in no sense, there's a sense of impartiality. There's a sense of omniscience. There's a sense of something godlike. It seems like when we are, um, how do you say, pure, when we are clear, suddenly there's a clear transmission of something higher. I don't know if higher is the right word, of something more profound, more spiritual, and that Anastasia in the book always seems to reiterate and say that it is most essential. It is, the essence of tapping in is innocence, is purity. So yeah, why don't we start with purity? Why don't we start with clear thinking and clear thought? And if I could add in here, a lot of things Anastasia says aligns with Jiddu Krishnamurti. And to be honest, he's the only one that I feel like, there's any time in the world worth spending. Maybe Anastasia is another avenue for that. But, Jiddu Krishnamurti also goes extensively into that, always questioning and asking oneself, what does it mean to, how do you say, think in a completely different manner than we have been thinking till now? If thought has created these cars, that's also something that comes out in chapter 7, created, the propaganda of this world, created all of the horrible things and the discordant societal processes, is there a thinking that's completely different? Perhaps almost a thinking that's liberated from conventional forms of thought altogether. And I think Anastasia touches on this very idea, or this very reality. And again, she points out how, houses are pointless, telephones are pointless. I mean, she doesn't have a house and she's living in, the taiga forest in Siberia. And how the technocrats are only speeding up the process of us realizing that returning to our primal origins and, the ancestral ways, the ways that are so integral to, integrated with nature, is where it's at and is where we're going, is where we're returning. So I found that also very refreshing. And yeah, well, what is television, right? Other than television, right? It's a vision one is telling oneself, right? I mean, this is another thing I really like about Anastasia that again rings true in Krishnamurti's words as well, is that we're all one. That's why I love that name, Alleone. We're all one. Right and left are one. These are all just concepts of division and separation. We're really the same being, filling different bodies. I like to look at it as We're different cups, but the same water, the same quality of water. So there's that. Let's see. So yeah, she touches on this fact that God is half material and half immaterial. And she says that the half that is material is every single one of us on the earth. So it's, we are extensions of God in essence. And yeah, that seems about right. Sounds about right to me. So yeah, I can buy that. And anyhow, that, yeah, again, this technocratic world, the way I see it, is trying to capitalize on this God essence or this creative ability, and trying to find a way to kind of create a hamster wheel, if you will, to harness this creative spirit, this creative ability, and I guess trying to lead down a man in some kind of a tunnel that's very anti-nature, very anti-creation. And in every form, in every way, whether it's health, whether it's mental issues, whether it's economic, the economic realities, whatever, in every realm, it seems that it's showing that there's this toxification that society has created is showing. So yeah, it seems to be coming around for full circle. Anyhow, she goes into this idea that that in this pureness, everyone can tap into this omniscience that Anastasia seems to have in this form of this orb, this omniscient orb, or this invisible ray that's always around her, that she says that we've lost touch with, just as though we've lost touch with our dreams, with our dream state, that we just see dreams as some incidental byproduct of our stressful lives, but that know that dreams are, integral to what this is, and going into intuition and, things that are not always so logical, but at the same time play such a crucial role in what man is, right? If man was a robot, there would be no such thing as intuition. There would be no such thing as a gut feeling. There would be no such thing as emotion, right? If we were just mindless robots programmed, there wouldn't be a sense of humanity. Well, what is humanity? What separates us from that which is, I guess you could say, artificial or unnatural? Well, what separates us from that is, again, this factor X that we call intuition or emotion, or that which is not always logical, that which is inherent, that which is not really worked towards. It's more of a natural thing. It's almost like you have to deprogram to get back in touch with intuition, that most people are so out of touch. They're eating things they shouldn't be eating. They're consuming, in a sense, they're watching things and they're digesting things they shouldn't be digesting through these five senses. And again, they're just living lives they shouldn't be living. So in chapter 6, as we go back, right, Vladimir's talking about how, if we were to parallel this with a concept that comes out in the Bible, take no thought for your life. I think it's Matthew chapter 6, or yeah, chapter 6 or something like that, verse 22, something like that, or maybe a little bit later or before. Like, take no thought for your life, do not the fowls of the air, like, don't they have enough food, and don't they, doesn't God take care of them? So why do you worry about your own life? Yet here we are in our modern society, and we have to toil and go around this rat race, this hamster wheel, constantly thinking about our survival, constantly thinking about, are we going to have enough to eat, constantly thinking about, am I going to be able to have sex, constantly thinking about really fear, right? Always being in this state of, I need to survive, I need to reproduce, I need to eat, I need to so much so that we can't enjoy and we can't play with nature. Isn't that such an amazing thing, that I think one of the main aspects of Anastasia is play, right? And in the play, it seems like she realizes this is all the play, she's not so how do you say, tied down and serious in her role, and is more willing to improvise, if you will. And in that fluidity, there's creativity. Whereas if you're very tied down to a role that's assigned by your peers and the society around you, it's very limited what you can do. So it seems like she's stepping into that which is unlimited, that which is omniscient, omnipresent, right? Through the play, which is through the pureness, through the innocence. Now, chapter 5, we, again, because she's so pure, it's almost like the animals see her as a shepherd, I suppose. The bears, the squirrels, the wolves, they flock to her. At the same time, they want to please her and they love playing with her. And it's almost like they're more fascinated, how humans go to zoos, because we're so fascinated, we lock these things up. It's almost the exact reverse, just like Vladimir points out in the novel. Usually he sees squirrels getting food from humans and getting a little bit irritated if humans don't provide the food that they want. But now he sees the reverse, Anastasia at the snap of her finger, and there's a few squirrels fighting and competing to please her, to give her a peeled cedar nut. So that's just absolutely fantastic as well. Let's see. Oh yeah, how he's sleeping for the first night in this dugout that Anastasia made. Anastasia's sleeping outside, by the way, in the cold. But how he's sleeping on this warm furry bear, and he doesn't even realize. And when he wakes up, he makes a fuss about it, that this bear could have torn me to pieces. But no, Anastasia reaffirms to him that the bear would never do such a thing. And Vladimir realizes that these animals are almost, tamed, just like the nature around her, which we see in chapter 2. The nature, because she's so pure and connected and communing with everything around her and so integrated into her surroundings, that again, everything is serving to please her and protect her. So everything is working for her. Whereas the society we've built, it seems like we're working against everything. We see nature as an entity that offers resistance, because really, what are we doing? We're resisting ourselves. So it seems that Anastasia goes through life without any resistance, even the way she just walks around, right, and doesn't trip over any twigs, and doesn't have a care in the world, is not worried about some man taking advantage of her, or of an animal ripping her apart. She's already above this level of survival and fear, and yeah, it seems like nature has her back. So yeah, another very key thing that Anastasia touches, or no, I think Vladimir just notices, is that Vladimir sees that a lot of the recluses, a lot of the people who like solitude, have this wisdom, have this connection with nature, have this uncanny ability to, see the future, see the past, or have some kind of psychic power, because perhaps they're far from the societal control mechanisms, if you will. And he notices this in Anastasia. He recalls a Russian figure. He sees that Jesus did this. He sees that Buddha did this. And he didn't mention Muhammad, but Muhammad does this. He sees that Moses does this. They all go away into a mountain, into the forest, into the wilderness. John the Baptist, right? They all go somewhere else. And in solitude, in the state of, a lack of distraction, in a place where one can be pure, they come back with codes, really. This is what he didn't say this perhaps precisely, but that's what's happening is they're clearing the transmission, they're clearing the information, because that's what DNA is, right? It's just information. So if we eat correct, it reconfigures our information correctly. So in the same way, if you go to an area, in an environment where all the information that's coming and leaving the body is in a correct fashion, right? That's really communion, right? Instead of going to church and eating this thing that's going to cause mucus in the body, that's going to cause degeneration and acidosis within the body, being in communion with nature gives you codes, gives you answers, gives you solutions, gives you greater and greater questions. So, and I know we haven't touched this yet, but I've heard from my friends who like Anastasia. I think it quickens in the frequency of thought, right? The speed of thinking. So there's that too. Yeah, and just how we touch on the tamed nature around Anastasia, of course, but also lack of clothes on Anastasia, and how Anastasia says, just like Wim Hof says, that clothes is what's actually impeding our ability to face the cold. So what we create actually insulates us from nature, quite literally, right? When we could be at one with nature, we could be at one with the temperature, we could take in our surroundings and adapt. That's what human beings are meant to be, is adapters. Yet we put this block, this layer of insulation between us and the outer world, so that we're actually disconnected with the inner world as well. The moment you shun the outer, you shun the inner. So you're disconnected both outside and within. And we're almost through here, but how Anastasia doesn't really have any possessions. She doesn't care about having these material things. She doesn't care about a house. She thinks finding and feeding yourself should be as easy as breathing. It shouldn't even cause any worry. You shouldn't even have to think about it. How the water around her is living and is probably alkaline structured, is full of life. The water Vladimir has on the boat is dead, and he has to filter it and put chemicals into it just to be safe to drink it. So yeah, and it's funny that we come to this at the end. The secret of the cedar and the energy that it holds, right? But also the pine nut, right? The cedar nut, and how there's this weird shadow that surrounds it. There's this weird secretiveness that surrounds the cedar nut and the healing properties of the cedar nut oil, and how the oil pressing site is in Turkey, even though the highest quality cedar is in the northern regions. The more north you go, it seems the better the quality and the frequency that comes out from this magical and ancient nut. But how it's all smoke and mirrors, and the ancient practice is lost, and how Vladimir tries to find Anastasia's grandfather, I believe, right? The oldsters again, to try to figure out the mystery. So yeah, so that's my first take and reflection on a few key points that I jotted down that I think were very important. And yeah, it just has everything, right? It has how technologically has so many, the technological modern society, the so-called civilized and sophisticated world we live in is so incomplete. It's so impure. Whereas the life Anastasia lives in solitude as a recluse, like the life of Buddha, Jesus, this Russian figure, Muhammad, Moses, but even more so because she stays in nature. These guys just went to nature and came back. Anastasia lives in nature, right? She she less frequently comes out to, to the city. So how this life that she lives in this solitude, in communion with nature, seems, it doesn't make any sense for Vladimir as a city dweller first coming out, but in another way, in a way of complete, in a way of seeing things from a natural point of view, from an ancient point of view, it makes so much more sense than a disconnected, sick, ill, impractical way of living that we've created in our society. So, how, Vladimir, and in conjunction, all of us as the viewers are beginning to question, what really is this life that we're living? And does it make any sense? And how, do we have to constantly be worrying and toiling over finding food and finding, trying to please ourselves and trying to, satisfy very, how do you say, fearful and low frequency needs all the time. So overall, I mean, it's kind of what I expected. Yeah, maybe even more better than what I expected from the people that recommended that I read this book, and I'm gonna keep reading and release this audiobook. But here's my first take on just the small snippet of Anastasia, the Ringing Cedars, the first 7 chapters. So yeah, thank you.